Okay, so if you guys are watching on YouTube, you probably noticed a little bit of a new recording location. So these past few weeks, I used to record in our guest room. We have 3 bedrooms. So I used to record in the guest room, but we took the bed out of there and are turning that into a nursery. And we moved my office, which was the 3rd bedroom, into like a guest room / bedroom. So I'm gonna be recording in here from now on, which is exciting. It feels really bright in here. It feels very vibrant. I actually really like recording near a window because nature is just so grounding for me, and it just feels like a fun spot. I definitely need to get a new office chair. This one is so squeaky, so I'm so sorry. But I wanted to share with you guys, or just do a little behind the scenes with you guys of how I personally process and release blockages and resistance. So there's a lot here, and I'm kind of freeballing it because that's just what I do best. Like, I want to just put my phone on the tripod and sit down and talk to you guys and not read off a freaking script. That would drive me nuts. So I hope this all makes sense. But I want you guys to know my story. I want you to know that I practice what I preach, and I'm also very human. I'm a human. Yes, I have access to Laura. Yes, I can channel. That's awesome, but I'm a human being. I have a very humanized human experience. What I'm trying to say is I go through a lot of the shit that you guys go through too. And, you know, I'm not just up here saying, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, without having to have walked it myself. Obviously, I have not walked all of what you have all walked. Everyone's journeys are so different, but I've really walked the walk with this stuff, and I want you to get to know me as your host, and also just this person in the community that you guys reach out to and all of that, and just more behind the scenes of how I do things. And I have a really good example here because I actually just did a lot of processing, and it kind of felt like over the past, I don't know, let's say 6 weeks or so, 4 to 6 weeks, I felt like I almost went through like another spiritual awakening in a sense. And that does happen with spiritual awakenings. Like, you keep evolving, you keep doing this, you keep doing that, and it can get very overwhelming. And I'm really grateful to say that I've been around the block enough with this healing journey that I knew to slow down. I knew to preserve my energy. I also factored in that I'm pregnant now, and so emotions are stronger to work through. But I allowed myself to work through it. So I'm going to be speaking business here because this was around business. And as you guys know, like, I run a business. I own a business. I run a business. It's my absolute dream. I've always dreamed of doing this. It is my dream come true. You all have made that happen. I couldn't be more grateful to everyone it's such a dream come true. And it's the biggest personal development journey I've ever been on in my freaking life, let me tell you. The biggest personal development journey. Holy shit, does it stretches you, not stress, a little bit of that too. It stretches you to new lengths. And it, at least in my experience, it has, a lot of my lessons have been within business. Now, I couldn't be more grateful for that because I know people get lessons in a lot harsher things, and I truly do thank my lucky stars. I have a lot of releases for myself now around that. So what's important to mention before I really get into it is I went through a very intense 3-year healing journey. And what I mean by intense is that really not much was happening in the business and all was happening on the healing side. So almost all of my days were devoted to deep healing because I had so much there that I had to work through. So much. An exorbitant amount around money, around myself, around trust. Every freaking topic you could think of, it took me years to go through. And a lot of you in this community are starting in that deep healing journey. And so the reason why I wanted to preface that is what I do now may not, you may not be at the point yet where it fully resonates with you, and that's totally fine. it may never resonate with you. I certainly don't want this to sound like, hey, here's what I do. This is what works. This is just what works for me. But I don't want you to beat yourself up if you listen to this and you're like, how could you do that so fast? Guys, it's because I had to go so slow with it for so long. So freaking long. About 3 years, probably 2 years and like 10 months, but let's just say 3 years. And it came with a very large price tag, and I will just leave it at that. It came with a very large price tag. It was intense. So that's why now I'm more fluid with it. And I will be fluid with it for the rest of my life, because when you get out of that thick part of it, it's just meant to be a part of your life. There are always things that are going to come up for you that trigger you, or that you're being called to shed or release. And I know for a fact, now that I channel, that everything holds a purpose and everything is working for you. And the more that you can ground in that and just throw your hands up and accept it and acknowledge what's coming up for you during certain circumstances and sit with it and process it and release it, the quicker it goes by. And that's such a big part of this life journey, of this humanized experience. Like, this is why your soul came into a human body. It was to learn this balance. The healing side, that's the feminine side, right? The masculine side, that's the actionable side. There's meant to be a 50-50 balance. So, back in October, I hired a very dear friend of mine who's also a client, a just incredible human being who is a marketing wizard. And I was actually in a one-on-one session with her for what I do with my private clients, and she mentioned something about consulting, and right away my gut was like, we gotta hire her to consult. So afterwards, I sent her a message, just a boxer, and I was like, hey, totally respectful of boundaries, but look, if you wanted to come into the business for a little bit, I'd love to hire you, so let me know your thoughts. And she was amazing. She came in. But how I knew I needed that was because in the business, I started to feel some resistance. It was like irritation almost. And whenever, I don't get irritated often, but when things start irritating me, I'm like, all right, what's going on here? I would get irritated. So there were some instances happening where I found everyone was coming to me to channel the answer for them. And for so long, right? Like I've been a channeler, I'll always be a channeler, and I was helping people really get the answers there, but I was feeling such resistance around that. Like whenever I'd see a message like that, I'd be like, I don't want to do that. Like I'd feel immediate resistance. And that right there is always an indicator of like, we've up leveled and something's going on here. Like we need to pause, because we are an irritated human being, but something is coming up in us. And we need to explore it. And so that happened, that the irritation kept happening. And then the circumstance happened where she, agreed to come in and do consulting for me. And we sat down in a 3-hour session. Oh my gosh. And we just came up with so much stuff. And through that, I realized that it was time to up level. I realized that my soul had already up leveled, and it was time for my human experience, like my human body, to catch up with that. And so I shared, I was having resistance around giving everyone the answer all the time, because I know that's not what I'm here for. Yes, like with my private clients, channeling is such a big part of the work we do together. I'm sorry, I'm releasing a lot for me. Channeling is such a big part of what we do together to help really get down to the blockages, and that is fine. But I don't want people turning to me for the answer, because I know I'm here to help people find the answers within themselves. I got disconnected from that. That was on me. I totally got disconnected from that, and my body let me know. It shut it down. And so that's from that perspective, because the greatest gift I can give you guys is teaching you how to communicate with the universe. Yes, Laura's here for guidance. Yes, I can channel, and that's all well and good, and I can help see the blind spots. Like I can help kind of pull those out. My wish for you all is that you begin to do that for yourselves. Now, we all need help. My friend Kristen, she does Reiki on me. Actually, those of you guys in the membership, when I'm on maternity leave, Kristen's taking over for me. She's freaking incredible. She's the only person I let channel me. She does my Reiki for me, everything. During our Reiki sessions, she helps seize my blind spots. We all need it. We all need the help. But it was more so how I was positioning myself as the answer for everyone. And one, that's doing a disservice to all you guys, because the greatest gift I can give you is finding it within yourselves. And two, from a business perspective, it's not scalable. It's not scalable at all. And it's a lot of energy, and it's just not scalable. And so when I was sitting with her, I was like, look, to get to the level that we're going, something's got to change. And she called that out right away. Like it wasn't hard to see that this just wasn't super sustainable and how I was positioning everything. And so what we did was we came up with a system and helping people figure that out for themselves and really being that guidance. And over the course of 3 hours, we just put all of this together. And so much of that requires a big shift in the business. Now, from the outside perspective, you may not see it as a huge shift, right? Like Manifestation Challenge was a part of that. But for me, holy shit, did it bring up so much. So I did that 3-hour call and I had to process for about 2 weeks. I didn't really make any movement for about 2 weeks. I had to sit and I had to process with it. Everything that she had suggested felt good. It felt right. I didn't feel immediate resistance towards it, because if I did, I would have paused right there and said, that doesn't feel good to me. Like, here's an example. If she said to me, you need to build this business to sell and start getting investors, I would have said, hell, like, no, that's not for me. But everything she suggested felt spot on for our growth and my alignment. And here's the key, it felt foreign. I felt triggered by not being the one to give people answers. That was a lot for me. So I had to go all the way back. Where did that stem from? Why? Why do I feel this way? What does that mean for me? Right? What else triggered me? Oh my God, there had to have been 5 million friggin' things because I processed this for so long. But point being is I sat with that and I processed for 2 weeks. And then I went away to a retreat and I had a suggestion come up there of something I knew I needed to do and really bring forward in my personal life. And that was a whole freaking whirlwind in itself, where I, brought something to Eric of just like a suggestion for something for us. And that was a big one in my marriage. That was a very, very big one in my marriage. And so it's really interesting here. I share this because processing this business stuff, it wasn't just business shit that came up. It was personal stuff too. And so Eric and I had a big conversation, a lot of big emotions. And then so much of that came up. And what I realized through my conversation with him is my voice started feeling unsafe, right? Like my voice gets me into trouble. When I use my voice, it feels unsafe. Because what I was asking myself is I procrastinated for some time. I meant to get that challenge up, the manifestation challenge up on November 1st. I didn't start it till November 15th. And I had this conversation back in the beginning of October. And I just felt this wicked resistance of like paralyzation to creating content. And I realized through my big conversation with Eric was, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to be seen. I am afraid to be seen because my voice gets me in, my belief is that my voice gets me in trouble. Now, I was in no trouble with Eric. We just had a husband-wife conversation where we both got a little heated and we both had it was emotionally charged. That's all. But what came up for me was that realization, that oh shit moment of I'm afraid to be seen. I was afraid to be seen. And he's such my angel. I mean, oh my God, the amount he's brought up in me and hopefully the amount that I've brought up in him, it's been the most beautiful thing ever. But trust me, going through that was not that was not beautiful. That was not fun. And so I had to process that. how did I do this, right? How did I do that and work at the same time? Because on top of just creating the manifestation challenge and my membership and all the things, I still run a business. I have a lot of clients. My phone pops off. Like I show up on, I'm the only one running the ship. And that's another thing, but anyways. So how did I balance both, right? So we'll take like a Monday, for example. These feelings were really, really strong in me. I had a lot to process. I had a lot coming up for me. So in the morning, I would spend my time, I woke up early and I would journal. For me in this season of processing, journaling was huge. So I would grab a pen and I had my paper and I write. And after like me and Eric had our big conversation, I wrote about 10 pages. This is how I feel. This is what I'm upset with. This is what pissed me off. This is what I feel like I need. And actually, really, this is the root of it. 10 pages. My hand was gonna freaking fall off. But I sat there and I did that. And then I asked my body, okay, what do I need right now? Meditation. So I sat and I meditated and I fought that. I did not want to sit still in these emotions. They were uncomfortable. I fought it like you wouldn't believe, but I sat my ass on that pillow and I did my best with meditating. I certainly didn't get into like a deep meditation. I just sat there stubbornly. I was being really stubborn. I'll be honest with you. Laura was cussing me out a little bit, but I was being stubborn because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to sit through that. That sucked. I hated that. And I meditated. And then I asked myself, do I have any energy to check my phone? Yeah. So then I check in with clients and I still did my meetings. And I did my meetings because I knew I could show up 100%. If I did not think I could show up 100%, I would have rescheduled those because that is not fair for the people who pay me at all. But I knew I could show up 100% and they were actually really good. They were quite distracting, which was nice. And then after meetings, I would just check in with myself again. Okay, how are we feeling with this? I feel like I need to cry. So I'd go take a shower and I'd cry. Because that's what, oh my God, so many releases. Ooh, that's what my body needed. And then the next day I'd wake up again and I'd say, okay, how are we doing? All right, we really need to, attention today. And I would just do that day in and day out. And any emotion that came up during the day, I would write down. So say if I was in a meeting with one of my clients and they said something and it really resonated with me and it like hit me, I wrote it down. Where I was like, they're processing through this and that really hit me. So that leads me to believe that I got a little bit of that there. So I'd write it down on a sticky note just so I wouldn't forget. I'm notorious for forgetting. And then after that call, I never do back-to-back calls, so I always have a minute. And I'd look at that and I'd say, actually, that really does resonate with me. So then I'd ask myself, what do I need to process through this? I need to connect with my inner child right now. Okay, what age range? 17. Okay, why is my 17-year-old feeling unsafe right now with this thing? Because way back when we were graduating high school, this person was really mean to us and it really made us feel unsafe. Okay, let's sit with her. Sat with her, validate her emotions. That was really scary. That wasn't fair. That didn't feel good in our bodies. Take a few breaths, and then on to the next thing with work. So I didn't shy away from anything that came up. Nothing. I wanted to run, but I knew what would happen. If I run from these things, they're only getting pushed down deeper in my body, and I've worked really freaking hard to get my nervous system out of fight or flight, and they're weighing down my vibration. I've worked way too hard for that. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to face it and I'm going to bitch about it the entire time because I don't want to do this, but I am going to do it. Right? I don't always approach this stuff, guys, with like smile on my face, like I'm pumped to do this. It is uncomfortable. So then I processed through that for a few weeks, and then the next thing came about. So I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I swear, like 50 things came about in this time span, but this is what happens. It just, sorry for the squeaks, I'm so sorry. This is what happens, is if you find that there's just a million things coming at you at once, it means that your manifestation is literally right around the corner and you are just shedding everything out. So I knew enough to know this was a really good sign, And I honored the experience and how uncomfortable it was and how annoyed with it I was, because I'm a human. So the next thing, I get out of the shower one day, and I was probably like 20 to 22 weeks pregnant at this point, and I'm just looking in the mirror, and I noticed, not that anybody wants to hear this, but safe space, I had a few stretch marks on my butt. And I was just like, oh my God, my cute little ass that I once had is now looks not as cute. And I got really insecure. I didn't even want to show my husband, the person I've been with for almost 10 years, who loves every inch of me. I was embarrassed to show my husband. And I cried. I got really upset. And I felt embarrassed. I felt all these emotions, and I really had to sit with that. But what that brought up inside of me was that I wasn't open to receiving love from myself. And I had no idea. I had no clue. I was not open to receiving love from myself. I would do everything for everyone else, but when it came to something for me, I made up an excuse. For example, I had a friend who literally forced me to book a facial, and when I tell you I wanted to cancel that facial 55 million times, for no apparent reason, I just came up with every excuse in the book too, it was very uncomfortable for me to go. But even then, in that instance, that was back in September, I didn't put two and two together, that I wasn't receiving love for myself. These few stretch marks on my booty is what brought that up inside of me. And what brought all this up was this conversation in business of up-leveling my business, guys. I just want to bring us back to that. This really cracked it freaking open for so many things to flood through. So I processed that for a few days. I allowed myself to get sad. I grieved the body I had pre-pregnancy. I allowed myself to be in my ego with it a little bit, because that's what it was, but my ego had to be seen, so I allowed myself to do that. Part of me was like, you're growing a human, like, relax. That wasn't helpful. I needed to express emotion around this. That was part of my grieving process that I didn't do during pregnancy up until this point. I had to grieve that. And then as I grieved that over the course of a few days, and that looked different every day. I cried, I would journal, I caught myself trying to rely on my husband to make me feel better about myself, but that's not his responsibility. I did a few things like that I started catching, where I was like, ooh, no, this is not what I want to be doing. And that's not his job to do. So I just allowed myself to be a human with it for a few days. I didn't beat myself up. And then right after that, maybe 4 days after, just randomly, I got this urge to find a moisturizer for myself. Now, I have super sensitive skin, and there's a release, and I have been more curious about like toxic products and things like that. And so I just randomly was on Pinterest or on Instagram, and I saw somebody post a recipe for tallow butter. And I was like, what the hell is that? And so I started looking into it, and then I found a recipe, and I was like, I want to do this. I haven't moisturized in a while because I wasn't pouring love into myself. And that could be part of the reason why, on top of other things, that like my skin was starting to show me. So I want to just try this, but I want to do this out of love for myself, not out of trying to get rid of these stretch marks. And so I bought some like organic tallow, I bought some other things that it needed, and I did like a whipped recipe, like a whipped body butter. I made that. And ever since then, every single night, I've been washing my face, I've been body brushing, and then I'll shower, and then I will moisturize my entire body with that tallow body butter. My skin has never felt better. I have never felt better. And as I'm doing that, now get this, as I'm doing that, just intuitively, I start giving compliments to myself, like thank you to my feet for helping me move today. I don't even think about that. It's just happening. And it really dawned on me like a few nights ago where I was like, I feel like a new person with this. I never did that before. I avoided kind of looking at myself in the mirror from like a physical perspective with all these body changes. But now I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm growing a human. My body knows what to do. And thank you to my friggin' ass stretch marks for showing me all this. You know, like it really is always working for you, but that's how I processed it. I'm an active processor. I don't run from it anymore. And at times it's really uncomfortable. And at times I have to have really hard conversations with myself or with somebody I love or somebody I love. And it's really hard. And it's not fun. But it's incredibly rewarding. And I trust in it every single time. I don't run from it anymore. I face it head on because I have dreams. I have goals. I have things that are manifesting for me right now. And for those to manifest, they require the highest version of me. I can't be the highest version of me if I don't pour love into myself. If I subconsciously avoid myself in the mirror. If I am playing small in areas of my life, I can't. And neither can you. And it's such a release as I said that. We can't afford to do that. Life is way too precious. And we're here to experience life and live life. And to experience it, it involves this stuff too. It involves acknowledging and being aware of what's not serving you anymore and just releasing it out. And that release looks different every single time. Sometimes for me, it's a simple cry. Sometimes it takes weeks of tapping. It's always different. But those were really the three big major things that came up, and little things along the way, a little like tests and challenges along the way. But you know, some of you noticed I kind of retreated from Instagram. I had a few of you message me if like I was okay. I just took some space because that is what I needed, and I didn't feel guilty for that. I didn't put pressure on myself for that. I went into hermit mode because that is what I needed. I needed to do that, and it was safe for me to do that. I met my responsibilities. I was in Voxer, I was in the membership, I did all that, but the other things that were like fun add-ons, like showing up on stories and reels, and I think even this podcast I didn't do for a week or so, I needed that. And I did not, and I can confidently say I did not feel guilty for that. Because it's safe to retreat. It's safe to heal. And it's safe to do it in the way that your body needs you to do it. This is what it looked like for me during this time. We'll see what comes up in the next round. And when the next round happens, I'm going to share it with you guys. I want to bring you alongside with me. I'm a human. I walk the walk that I preach. And it does get easier over time. I can absolutely say that. I process through a lot of heavy things in a short period of time. But again, that's because I allowed myself to just pause and do it. And just feel it and just experience it. I slept a lot. Some days I didn't eat very well because I just needed a comfort meal. Like that is just what I needed. I trust in my body and how it does things. I trust in myself and the guidance that I received to navigate it. And I want to let you guys know too, because like I don't want anyone to think like, oh, she has like an upper hand here because Laura can just tell her what to do. I have to be in such a headspace to access Laura. Trust me when I say I was not in that headspace. I'm in like so when I access Laura on here, guys, sorry, I keep looking at that. I have a call in a couple minutes, so I'm gonna have to scooch here in a moment. But when I access Laura, right, I'm in a totally meditative space. And yes, my eyes are open, but I'm meditating essentially. I'm out. Gabrielle's out. Laura's speaking through me. I couldn't even get close to that point over those weeks. So I could hear inklings from them every now and again, like my intuit, like every now and again, but it wasn't happening. And that's okay. It wasn't meant to. And I do remember the night after Eric and I had like a big conversation with big emotions. I slept in the guest room that night because I was like, I need some freaking space, and like I just want to be in this quiet room by myself. God, so dramatic. But I remember Laura that night, they came through and they were like, okay, so here's how it's working for you. And I was like, get the fuck away from me. Don't even try me. Don't try me. I had to be totally in my human experience. And that's okay, because that is what I needed. I was not ready to receive that from Laura. I got it from them like 2 weeks later, and I was so ready to receive it then, and it made a lot of sense. But when I tell you, when they tried to come through, I was like, I'm going to cuss you guys out so hard. Leave me alone. So it is a journey. We're all humans, and I hope that this shows you the balance the balance of this all. It is a balance. I didn't fight through it and just work the whole time. I did my responsibilities and work. I met my commitments, obviously. If anything felt too heavy, I would have rescheduled it. I think I did reschedule some things. But I met my commitments. I didn't go overboard. I did what needed to be done. No extras. And that was it. And guys, once I processed that, the manifestation challenge made so much sense to me. That's when I could hear Laura. That is when her and we were like this. We banged so much of that out in such a short period of time because I was fully focused. Oh my God, these releases. I was fully focused, fully present, 110%. And it was the most beautiful thing ever. And I could not have done that without experiencing those 3 major things and processing through them. I love you guys so much. I hope this was helpful for me. Let me know if you want to hear more behind the scenes of me and my life. Like, I'd love to share my spiritual practice with you guys and just anything you want to know. Let me know. If you like this episode, I would so appreciate a review. I love reading your reviews, and the reviews help out so much. So I would so appreciate that. But I love you guys, and I will talk to you soon.